go. Let's go ahead and call this meeting of the Parks and Public Works Committee to order. We'll start with roll call. You got everybody accounted for there? Yes. All right, great. Well, you're way ahead of the game. All right, then the first thing on our agenda is approval of the agenda.
I so move.
Second.
All right, our agenda is approved. And we will move on to public comments. Is there anyone here who'd like to make a public comment? Come on up. Just give us your name and what city you live in.
Okay. Am I live? So hello, my name is Han Kirkland and I live in Kent, Washington. Hello, good evening, council, city administrator. Once again, my name is Han Kirkland. I'm the public sector manager with Waste Management. I've had the privilege of managing the solid waste contract with city staff since the beginning of this year. It's been an honor for WM to serve the Snoqualmie community for the past 12 years. Thank you. We provide recycling, compost, and solid waste services. Wanted to just thank you for the opportunity to participate in the RFB process. We're excited to continue being your service provider for the next 7 years. And since we didn't get a chance, because it was a bid versus a proposal, to tour our operations yard and our MRF, the materials recovery facility in Woodinville, I'd like to invite you all to come out and visit us sometime to see what we do. Our Cascade Recycling Center was upgraded last year to with the latest technology to increase recyclable processing. So with me tonight is your WM team. I've got our district manager, our new public outreach and education coordinator, and also a driver who lives and serves the Snoqualmie community.
I've seen you before.
Yeah, so I look forward to working with Patrick to implement the new contract, and you have my information. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or issues.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we're on your route. I think that's what it is. Yeah. Okay.
Thank
You
you,
wanna come
Mom,
up?
for all your service with
Please.
the events and things like that. It's so appreciated. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steven Sobchak. I live in Lake Stevens, Washington, and I am the Senior District Manager at our Woodinville Calling District, also referred to as Northtown. We service the city of Snoqualmie. I'm very grateful for the partnership for the past 12 years, and we look forward to continuing this partnership.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Council. My name is Grace Fletcher. I live in Sammamish, Washington, and as Han introduced me, I am the Outreach Coordinator for the City of Snoqualmie. So I will be taking over Shannon Brennan's position as she transitions into a new role at WM. I just wanted to update you on a couple outreach projects that we've been working on. So actually yesterday and today, our Recycle Core interns at Waste Management have been out in your Snoqualmie community visiting all of your multifamily and commercial businesses. And so they've been doing great work face-to-face with the multifamily property managers and commercial business managers. And so I just wanted to let you all know that we are out in your Snoqualmie community, and I'm super excited to begin doing this work with you all.
Hi, my name's Matthew Lim. I've been with Waste Management for 15 years, and I actually moved to Snoqualmie because of Waste Management 12 years ago. So I've been a resident for quite a while. So I just wanted to thank the council members for stepping up, as we would call it in the Teamster world. The company takes care of the drivers, and the drivers really like to take care of the community. So it's my privilege to actually be here as a driver and just not as a resident. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Is there any further public comment?
Evening, Patrick Fry, project engineer with the city. I just wanted to make a one.
Your city of residence.
Fall City. Okay. Just make one quick comment, follow up on all the folks with WM. There was a bit of an issue with a truck or trucks last week where they got new trucks and they're a little bit bigger than their previous trucks. And so they had difficulty accessing some of the alleyways. As such, some residents missed their garbage collection. There's just discussion and discourse over it. We've resolved it. WM is bringing back the trucks that they were replacing in the short term. And in the long term, we're going to essentially figure out ways to make sure that when they do have to implement the new trucks, they're going to still fit down alleyways. Service will continue this month. But the short term, if you hear anybody complaining, making noise about it, just know that since solved the problem.
Okay, thank you.
Were the cans picked up? Next day? Okay, I thought you were on the old contract too, but okay.
They are the little contract.
Yeah, because I remember we kept Friday just for like storm days. So Friday was, my recollection was Friday was available to you. But you guys handled it, okay.
They didn't
Thank
run
you.
over anybody, so, you know.
Don't
it's all
say
good.
that.
It's all good.
Don't you? No, don't.
No cars got
Not a
hit,
joke.
no property damage, what the?
Whoa, whoa.
All right, well, thank you very much. If there's no further public comment, then do you have anything else to say, anything on your mind? Good, okay, let's move on. We'll move on to approval of the minutes. I
Move
will-
to approve as presented.
Second,
All right, our minutes are approved, and let's move on to Agenda Bill AB 24-081, resolution awarding waste management, the 2025 solid waste contract. Wait, when did we do this?
Evening Council, Patrick Fry, for project engineer with the city of Snoqualmie.
You don't have to tell me where you live. You don't have to tell me where you live now.
Before I begin, as has been made clear, the WM team is here. Further, we have our consultant on the line too, Jeanette Jurgensen. So hopefully any questions that you guys have tonight, somebody will be able to answer that for you. That said, I have a presentation for you all. It'll probably look a bit familiar to you, as it's similar to ones that I've presented in the past concerning this contract.
This one looks different.
this one looks like
Oh,
a sewer sidewalk.
you are right. That's for later.
Different waste.
There we go. Okay. What's this? So this is hopefully the final time that I'll be coming to you with this update on solid waste contract. So tonight's purpose is really to receive some direction from you all on some of the bid alternatives that we talked about back in March or so, as well as hopefully just be moving forward with the contract as a whole. That's out the council as a whole next week. And so just to provide a little bit of background and remind you all, back in February, we decided to move forward with the RFP procurement method that was presented, and that's what we talked about back in February 6th. Then we put it out to bid, I believe, in May, with bids due also in May. And then that's for a new contract starting June 1st in 2025. And the current contract that we are on right now with Waste Management, it was originally a 7-year contract with 2 or 3 2-year extensions. And the new contract is a 7-year contract with 2 1-year extensions as options. And that's what is maximized in our city code as well. So just a brief timeline. January, we were preparing the RFP documents. March, we got industry review, as well as council review at that point. We released the final RFP in April. Bids were due May 7th. And since we've got those bids back, we've been on contract finalization. So really, it's mostly just been the lawyers talking and finalizing the fine language of the contract since that point. And we are now in that August 2024 council process. And again, to remind you, this is for a new contract starting June 1st of next year. So really, the contract is pretty similar to the existing contract. So some of the continued contract features are just hauler provided customer service billing and annual, weekly garbage and recycling and compost, supporting city's mandatory collection enforcement. That's a requirement in our city code. Holiday tree collection, having some sort of inclement weather plan involved, attending those community events. Really, it's pretty similar to the old contract. But some of the new contract features are that collection trucks must be newer than 10 years old. So they don't have to be brand new, but they can't be ancient. There's low income senior disabled resident discount, premium dumpster services included, and unlimited commercial recycling.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
As I recall, in the old contract, there was help for the elderly and disabled in bringing their garbage to the sidewalk that was included in our last contract. Does that continue in the new contract?
So that was a point of discussion, and yes, it's still in the contract. Determining who those folks are is up to Waste Management. But there, I don't know how many people currently utilize that service, but there's not a concern that we're kicking them off.
Okay, great, great.
So the bids received, we received 3, one from Waste Management, one from Republic, and one from Ecology. Waste Management was the low bid at about $4.5 million annual revenue. Republic was, I think it was about 4.8, and Recology was a bit higher in the 5s. So they were all actually pretty tight, but Waste Management was the low bidder. So just in comparison from our current rates to the new rates, so this is the big one that everybody's going to be focused on, is that residential 32-gallon garbage cart. That's just an average cart. So obviously the residences will have different size carts, and we just use 32 gallons to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. And the current rates are $33.44, and the new contract rate is $47.58. And so that's an increase of about 40%.
And remind me, what are the 3 sizes of carts? 32 is the middle, right?
Yeah,
and then there's
more than
64.
3.
96 is the big, 64, and then 32 is the one that looks smaller. Okay.
Further, everything is increasing is essentially just a bit. Those called contract alternatives that we had talked about way back. One item was no cost annual bulky item collection. So that's being able to get rid of a couch once a year at no cost. And adding that to this contract would add $1.35 per month for that 32-gallon cart. Every other week compostable collection. So that is full year, every other week. Doing it would subtract $3.25 from that 32-gallon cart. And if we were just to do seasonal, every other week compostables, so that's from November until I believe it was April, just every other week compost, and then weekly for the remainder of the year, we would be saving $1. And that's on a per month for 32-gallon carts
For residents.
for residents.
Right.
Yep. Just for reference as well, and to help you guys make that decision, monthly compost usage, if you look at it throughout the year, There is a fairly substantial difference between peak and valley. With the peak being in May at 164 pounds a month per resident on average, and a valley in February where it's about 66 pounds per month. That comes to about 22 pounds of compost a week that most residences are using, with a 95 pound per month average.
I have a question, Chair. So the alternatives you just showed us, can a resident choose and pick what they want, or you're saying these are alternatives that the council must approve?
Alternatives that council must approve, it's contract for everybody. Yeah.
Right.
And just for reference, 164 pounds, about how much of a 32 gallon, no, I'm sorry, it's a 96 gallon container for compost, right?
Yeah, it's the big one.
How much of a container is that?
Obviously, it'll depend on the density.
Sure.
If it's filled with leaf litter, then
Sure, but we're talking about averages. And if the average is 164 pounds in May, is that
per month.
filling it up? Oh, per month.
That's per month.
So that's 41 pounds a week. 40 pounds a week
Yep.
on average.
Yep.
How much of the container is that? You guys know, you know.
So
Right, but how many pounds of compost would that be?
like with lawn clippings or.
Three-quarters of the way would be about 40 pounds. About half. So in May, when we're looking at the max, we're looking at an average of people filling it up over the course of 2 weeks.
And or putting yard waste bags alongside of it.
That option knocked over $3 off to do. Oh, no, that was the seasonal one.
So no, you
That was
were right.
that was every other week, year round,
Every other week, year round, knocks
$3.
three and a quarter
Yeah.
off per month.
Every other week during the slack seasons takes $1.
Takes $1 off. Yeah. But my question is, if we did it year round, every other week, how many residents are going to run out of green bin space on a regular basis?
Yeah, is there a separate charge for yard waste bags in addition to the yard waste bin?
I don't think so. Oh, there is.
An extra what?
There's a fee.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Just for reference, bulky items, 21 items were requested last year. And by items requested, it was 21 individual requests. So sometimes it was like, hey, can you take a table and a chair? And that counted as one. So
21 individual requests.
Yep.
And if we can go back that slide, so if we were to keep that,
it would add $1.35. So right now it is not part of the contract, and if we added no cost annual bulky item, it would add $1.35.
So currently, we don't have that in there.
Yeah, and there is always the option, you call up Waste Management and you say, hey, I want to get rid of couch, and they have the price for that.
What is the price for that?
It varies depending on the item.
Like divans are cheaper than sectionals, or?
He's like this. all
No,
the
I
time.
just want to know, but to the point that you made in the last slide, there were 21
Only 21.
requests
Yeah.
across 15,000 residents
all of Snoqualmie, yeah.
last year.
So end of the day committee action, what we're looking for is A, moving this contract forward to get signed by the mayor, and council, approve it. But then B, also getting some direction on those alternatives so that when we do move forward with the contract to council of the whole, we are moving forward with those items or without those items. That's it.
Okay, you want to go back to the options page? So rough math, and the math is wrong, but it's just exemplary. 12,000 residents or 12,000.
How many households? How many households?
4,000 households.
4,000. Yeah,
So $4,000
a
a
month.
month
Yeah,
for 21 items picked up.
I bet those 21 people could do it more efficiently by just calling up Waste Management and
Client waste
arranging that.
management and just doing it, or either, well, some of those I'm taking them to the station in Factoria for appliances and over here to the transfer station up by forgetting what the place, Rattlesnake, up by Rattlesnake Ridge.
yeah, that one seems that one seems like a
That one-
no-brainer.
Yeah, that one, no.
Yeah, so that's as the contract stands, it's not included. So yeah.
So you already figured this out. It just takes us longer. Okay, so yeah.
It's the every other week, whether that's kind of how many folks that's gonna affect as far as.
Yeah, I
Well,
feel like
I-
that. I feel like that's something that most people would be able to handle just fine, but the people who can't handle it just fine,
Right,
that's a huge.
Yeah.
That could potentially be a huge problem.
yeah. Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Chambliss.
Sorry to put you on the spot. Is it possible for somebody to request more than one green bin? That might take care of that for those people.
Well,
Do we know what that rate is or offhand?
Offhand, I just want to make sure, Jimmy, have you promoted Jeanette Jurgensen to?
I did. Jeanette's got her hand raised.
She's got her hand up.
Yes.
Oh, great. Miss Jeanette.
Thank you so much. In the current pricing, an extra compost cart with weekly service is $8. If we do move to every other week, we would need to sit down with Waste Management and figure out what that price would be, but I assume it would be relatively close to that.
Did we get a rate sheet from each bidder?
Yes. And so the way that we calculated who the lowest bidder is, it's the estimated total revenue. And so that's that $4.5 million. And so that's how we chose the low bidder. Low bidder wasn't selected just on the 32-gallon cart price. It's everything.
Right.
So just a bid sheet of $1 figure for each vendor doesn't make me go away feeling full.
Sorry, I'm not following.
I'd like a bid sheet that has a little more data than what we got.
Oh,
So if possible,
you
I'd
should-
like to see those rate sheets from the vendors included in the package. Is that possible?
It's part of the package right now. Or, oh, no, you're right. You're totally right. I'll
All I
send that
got, I went looking for it. All I had a bid sheet that it listed the dollar figure
Yeah.
by vendor.
Or you are correct. I'll send
Okay.
that to you. It's a lot of sheets and that's why I just went down to the singular figure, but I send that over to you as soon as.
So the other option, so they've got two, if we go every other week, whether seasonal or yearly, they have the option of either getting a second bin or the option of doing yard waste bags and adding and getting the additional charge.
So the question is, if you do get an extra bin, you're talking about another $96 a year for your garbage.
They're compostable.
for your compost.
Yeah.
Yeah. But your total bill is gonna go up by about $96 plus tax. And so the question is,
Leaving it on a weekly basis for everyone.
keeping it on a weekly basis for everyone. Well, the $1 one doesn't even seem worth the trouble. You think so?
We'll say the other cities have tried doing the bi-weekly in the winter months and then weekly in the summer months, and there's challenges with community residents. Not to say that it can't be surmounted, but just doing that swap and knowing exactly what the challenges with it.
Uh,
Do what? Weekly, bi-weekly, or seasonal?
It seems to me like I'm curious as to what you think, but it seems to me like every other week would probably serve the vast majority of our residents just fine.
All year round.
Huh?
All year round. You're saying?
Yeah.
I'm being cagey. My wife just got these new battery operated tree clippers.
Right.
And the yard waste has been full, about to take the battery away. So I might have a biased opinion here.
I mean, my wife owns a business that fills up the compost bins every week. We got to empty a barn of all of the stuff, but I think we're the exceptions, and I think the luster is going to fade from your trimmers. You're gonna,
Well, and I do the yard waste bags, and had an excessive amount out there at times, admittedly. But I think that's probably a choice. Maybe not mine, but it's a choice. So yeah, the community wise, yeah, it may save us a little bit of money to go up every other week.
But I can bring this to council as a whole as well.
Well, you're,
I agree. As a, you know, an individual with a relatively small yard and such, you know, the every other week is really, and if I have extra stuff one week, I just hold it till the next week, you know, type of a thing. So it's not a big deal.
it seems to me like probably 85% of the, I'm just spitballing, but you know, save $40 a year, whereas, you know, if the other 15% need to, it's an overall savings. It's an overall savings, I imagine.
For something that's gonna go up anyway, right?
Yeah, well, it's going up,
Yeah.
you know, by like 50% right now, which is
40%.
40%. That's like 50%.
That's close. It's within 10%.
It's a lot of percents, which everything's going up a lot of percents. Yeah, that would be my suggestion. To make the greatest impact on the bill with the lowest impact on people's perceived services.
so that we're going to council with this.
Going to council. Yeah, okay. Plan to do the whole thing over again. Council, yeah.
I won't give away any spoilers. All right, thank you very much.
And your one sheet where you show the rate changes on the receptacles? Because right now the presentation is not attached to the agenda.
Correct.
Okay, can we attach this to the agenda, please?
Yes.
I mean, all through this, we talk about what it's gonna cost and everything else, but nothing in the agenda package talks about what it's gonna do. The individuals out there are very limited.
Good feedback.
I don't want to blind, you know, we will blindside people, but I like the opportunity to not blindside people with these rate increases.
All right,
Alrighty.
let's move on to the next one, huh?
Oh,
Okay,
wait,
you can go ahead
wait,
and sit down. We got another guy coming up
wait,
for,
wait, let's back the two other items up, not necessarily involving waste management. So there are two additional city fees on top of that. There's the administrative fee and the utility tax. Utility tax, I think the straight about 7%. So it just kind of goes with it. The administrative fee jumped 20-some percent from year to year dollar figure from what we expect in 2024, what we expect in 2025. Was there any consideration of changing the administrative fee to reduce that overall impact and maybe send some of that back to the citizens? Like, do we need to increase the administrative fee intake by 20%?
But, so just to make it clear, the admin fee?
Yeah.
Called admin fee for short, that's staying the same rate that it is at the moment. That's the way that the contract is currently written. I just want to make that clarification. As for consideration, there was talks about it. We could certainly lower that if we wanted to in order to knock some of this off. But there's also consideration that that admin fee is meant to be used for the administration of this contract. That's, you know, my time, not that that's covering that whole thing, but then also the damage that garbage trucks do to the road, not because they're poor drivers, but because they're incredibly heavy vehicles that are driving over these
But that's
local
the
access roads.
utility rate. Utility rate is split between general fund and streets.
So
The-
this might be the time for it to jump in, but
Yes.
I read that part, Drew. I really did.
Happy to be here. So regarding the utility tax, right, that's a 9% rate based on the gross receipts that is collected by Waste Management overall. Consequently, 1/3 of that right now is going into the non-utilities capital fund, which is our non-utility CIP, in order to really fund the street resurfacing program. The other 2/3 right now is being collected in the general fund to support our overall kind of levels of service. When it comes to the admin fee, that is the same rate as Pat back there stated. It is a percentage, right, of what Waste Management is collecting overall. On top of, I think the fees that you see there, that is money that is going directly into the general fund. General fund that includes things such as street maintenance, which is where a lot of the pothole repairs takes place, and also some of the other kind of road work that we do too. In addition to that, there's a lot of administration as well that goes into this, and so that fee is supporting that. It's certainly a valid question to council to ask if they wanted to reduce that in order to maybe reduce the rates that you're seeing there. But we've had conversations over time about what the state of the general fund is right now. And so that has to come into question too, because this is certainly some revenue that could be useful as we pursue budget discussions later this month and into next month for 25 and 26. So.
I just, okay, so again, I guess I have a follow-up question, one more question of what are the administrative costs here? What's been their growth? Again, 20% year over year seems a bit much. I have a hard time, your logic ends up that people who may not use the parks are gonna pay for park cost increase by way of their garbage. There may be more appropriate ways to collect that revenue, you know, either in REIT or whatever that is more appropriate than having garbage pay for unassociated things to garbage. Okay. Okay. Again, just a question at this stage.
I think it's a good question. Philosophically, how much are our administration costs going up? Are they we had a 7-year contract with Waste Management, followed by 6 years of extensions. And so we were operating at a lower rate for a long time. And now we're feeling the adjustment of that here. Were we struggling over those 6 years of extensions, not collecting enough administrative fees to cover things like street repair and just the administration of the contract. Do we have any analysis on that, or is there, you see these numbers more than any of us? Does my question make any sense?
It does. I don't have any analysis for you, but necessarily, but keep in mind that there are increases in the contract over time based on, I believe, CPI, if I'm not mistaken. So there have been those types of increases that we have experienced too. And generally, ideally, our administrative student costs would have tracked with CPI over time. The city has certainly grown and the needs have changed and the complexity of government has changed as well. So we have to be cognizant of that and what we're dealing with in the future too. Which this is a community that's highly dependent on property tax, which can really only increase 1% annually. This is a revenue source that currently supports the general fund. You know, given the change in the CPI for the administrative fees and things like that, that will help us to keep pace with inflation, you know, better than property taxes can. So, and currently right now, you know, certainly out there, a lot of this is to help with our street repairs and stuff like that. You know, I'm pretty concerned that those costs are increasing at the rate of inflation as well. So we have to be mindful of that. And this is one mechanism in order to fund that.
Anything else? Thank you. That's
Thank you.
It's a good argument. Shoot, it's going to be expensive. All right. Anything else? Should we move on to the next one? We're on AB 24088, amendment to the contract with Parametrics for design of 384th Avenue Sewer Sidewalk Project. Who's going to tell us about this one?
Evening, council.
And you are?
Patrick Fry.
Does-
Project engineer with the city of Snoqualmie,
Does the
resident of Snoqualmie.
waste
We
management
don't need to
folks-
know where you're at.
You
Yeah.
folks don't have to stay for this part.
This is entertaining for you.
So as mentioned, this is an amendment for the design contract with Parametrics Inc. They're the designer of the 384th sewer sidewalk job. And so we initially scoped that sewer sidewalk job back in 2022. And they, as you do with these design contracts, you estimate the whole cost that this project is going to be to see through completion. During the design of that contract, there were a lot of unforeseens in it. Things like incredibly poor soils, proximity to a PSC gas main, and permitting challenges with King County. And because of that, costs increased more than or exceeding the contract limit. Yet, most of those costs are associated with the sewer or the sidewalk and storm portion of that job. So as such, we put a pause on a lot of the design work for that storm until the agenda bills went through back in May. And so if you remember, I will share my screen again. Two. Apologies. This one. So if you remember, this was when we were deciding which whether to go with just the sewer work or the sewer and the sidewalk work. Just because of the cost, it was a big councilmatic decision, and the idea was to go forward with the whole contract that included the sidewalk. Because at that time I knew that the design was going to be greater, or there was still design work to be left to be done. I had mentioned, sorry, I'm just going to flip right through the PowerPoint. The summary. Go. So if you remember this, sheet in the slide, I had mentioned, as highlighted in red, additional $150,000 utility money required later for construction management and permitting to come later. This is that later. And so I've been working with the designer. They've been moving forward with the money that they have remaining in their contract to make sure that we don't get delayed on anything. But now we need to do that amendment for that design work.
We'll finish your, I'm sorry, finish your.
Yeah, no, so that's really about it. So that this $131,000 that I'm bringing forward as this contract amendment, that is that $150,000 that I quoted there. Yeah, so
So, a couple of questions that I had with reading through the pyramid matrix information there that they provided for us was with since the King County permit revisions are still in progress, we might, hopefully, it's going to shake out, that with even the storm drain system adjustments, the revisions to the TIR, the HEC-RAS, or however you say that, computer modeling from FEMA for the flood hazard chart or certification, the critical areas report, all these things kind of snowballing here. And all of these revisions are going to be resubmitted to King County for the permits, hopefully that will be approved the first time around. Will this delay the contract duration to extend beyond the 12/31/24 deadline? And or do you have another projection
So
on that?
yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of unpack there. So I'll start by saying that King County has already done the initial review on this. They've done a couple of rounds of review.
Yeah.
They have bought off on everything. They just want a couple of things, such as the HEC-RAS modeling that you mentioned.
What does that mean?
It's Army Corps of Engineers software that essentially is saying that the water's not going to rise when you put something into it. So it's a model that's saying, yes, even though we're putting a wall in over there, that is going to mean some fill into the wetland, just because of the quantities of fill in there is not going to cause additional flooding into the area. And so it's a pretty involved process to do that. And so like that's one of those items that's in that contract. I didn't want to tell them to go start doing that modeling until we knew that the contract, or until we were even going to be moving forward. So anyways, we know that the model is going to show that it's not going to have any rise because back of the napkin math shows that it's going to be essentially a 0% rise, but King County wants that actual proper HEC-RAS modeling done. And so that's where here where we are now.
You showed them your napkin though.
Yeah, they weren't,
Okay, right.
they weren't impressed with the napkin. And so I just wanted to say that we have buy-off from King County. We've gotten a couple of variances that we need from them. They just want everything tied up in a neat nice bow.
This is a wetland. Yeah.
Wetland, exactly, and it's their name on there granting these variances. And so we have buy-off on the design, so I'm not concerned about that.
Okay.
The design, the timeline on the design contract that ends at the end of this year, I'm also not worried about because the design should be done within a month and a half completely. As for the construction contract, we have that going through next year. And so I'm not worried about the construction contract with Rodarte. Those were the low bidders.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not worried about that extending past that contract.
And will our casino sewer line still be on track?
Yeah,
with
sewer line
timeline?
the sewer line is not part of the permitting process with King County,
Okay.
just because we have a
Existing.
existing operating with them, and this is just maintenance work, so that's not a permitting concern. So that we have that permit with them, that's different beast, and that's why construction on that sewer line is ongoing right now.
So you mentioned that for Rodarte, it won't affect the contract timeline, but do we know if it's gonna, by putting in these, the other things that they're having to accommodate for because of the poor soil, the articulating sidewalks, are those types of things gonna affect the bid from them as far as costs for the project?
Also a great question. And so as part of that bid, all of those items were already included. We already knew most of these items that King County wanted.
Okay.
It's just these HEC-RAS modeling, just these extra hoops
Okay.
that they want us to jump through.
And not to show my ignorance, but with the existing gas main, when PSA did the potholing, so they didn't have to move the line, what does that mean? I'm not familiar with that term in relation to a gas line.
Yeah, so potholing is just digging into the ground, essentially, and confirming where certain utilities are. So it's just, you know, where exactly is the gas main beneath me? I know because of however they detect it with their metal detectors that there's a line here. But when you're trying to design a storm system that is in incredibly close proximity to that gas line, you want to know not here, you want to know it's right here. And so you pothole right there. And you have to do that the whole way down because these lines do have some move to them, and sometimes they do jog. And so you want to make sure that you know exactly where it's designing. That way, when you're under construction, you're not saying, "Oh no, we hit a medium pressure gas line." So you want to know exactly where it is.
So Patrick and Finance Department will be working on a continuing resolution for these projects that are going to extend past the biennium. And that will be coming to you ahead of time, hopefully sooner rather than later, so that like the sidewalk part of this, which is going to go into next year, it's okay to go into next year.
Okay. And I have a couple more questions, but I don't want to like.
No, you go right ahead.
Go
You-
ahead,
you
you're on a
know-
roll. You're doing good.
You know how to have a conversation. You're doing great.
Heading off a bunch of
Learned a
them, I
lot
got-
from you. I didn't even think of any of these questions, so.
Just two more, Patrick, I promise. So is Paramatrix, they're also doing an on-site health and safety plan, or while they're out on-site managing the project? What's that for?
So a health and safety plan is something that the contractor typically provides.
Uh-huh.
And so that's, you know,
So they're
exactly what it sounds like. It's-
for management part of it, they're going to do it instead of the contractor.
Yeah, so they have their own health and safety plan as well, because they're also doing the construction management of this, and so they have to have their own plans. Anybody on a construction site.
Okay. And then lastly, Paramatrix in their Exhibit B, they had many references to C worksheet, which wasn't in our council packet, and is, what is the worksheet, and is it something we need to see?
So that worksheet would have been in reference to all of the pricing that you were looking at.
Okay.
And so it's that.
Just a different type of breakdown.
Yeah, just-
Okay. That was all. Thank you.
Anything else? So should this go on consent, non-consent?
No, it's not consent.
Okay. And you're gonna give this
The council.
at council again, right?
You bet.
Okay, all right. So nothing today is consent. Great, great work, Mr. Fry. You're doing important stuff. Thank you for
Yeah,
presenting it to
But
us.
if the material on a number of places says see worksheet, is there any issue with attaching worksheet to the agenda bill?
Yeah,
to-
so really, it should say C attachment, whatever it is, whichever one is the.
Oh,
attachment.
okay, so it's already there, it's just,
It's already there.
it's listed
Yeah,
as
it's just not
attachment, okay,
labeled as worksheet.
exhibit, whatever.
Because they had there was some prices listed in the narrative of the scope of work type of stuff, then they had a price beside it, or, so would that be considered what they were referring to?
Yeah, or the worksheet could just be items that were, we discussed in detail, like between myself.
Thank you. All right, next on the list is discussion. How you guys doing? Okay, that's good. I will,
Should I get comfortable?
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.